The Crimson Empire's grand assault. The obsidian throne room of Nexus Prime stretched endlessly in all directions, its black walls carved with the names of 1,000 conquered worlds. Emperor Thrakus sat upon his throne of crystallized bone, his massive form commanding fear from every corner of the galaxy. For 800 years, his Crimson Empire had swept across the stars like a plague, leaving nothing but ash and submission in its wake. Thrakus stood nearly 15 feet tall, his crimson skin marked with the ritual scars of victory. His 4 arms ended in claws that could tear through steel, and his eyes burned with the fire of a conqueror who had never known defeat. The ceremonial crown upon his head was forged from the cores of dead stars, each gem representing a species that had dared to oppose him. "Bring me the morning reports," his voice boomed across the vast chamber, causing the assembled courtiers to tremble. A small figure emerged from the shadows, trembling as she approached the throne. This was Advisor Zilka, keeper of the Empire's intelligence network. Her pale blue skin marked her as one of the few surviving members of the Theta Collective, a species that had proven useful enough to spare from complete extinction. "Great Emperor," she whispered, her voice barely audible in the massive chamber. "The Outer Territories report total compliance. Sector Delta 7 has been fully processed. The Morphin resistance in the Gamma Quadrant has been eliminated. All tribute shipments are arriving on schedule." Thrakus nodded with satisfaction. His empire now controlled over 3,000 star systems, each one a testament to his unstoppable might. His Crimson Armada was the terror of the galaxy, 5,000 warships that could reduce entire worlds to cosmic dust. No force in the known universe could stand against him. "What of the expansion into the outer spiral arms?" he demanded. "Are there any new worlds worthy of our attention?" Zilka consulted her data tablet, her hands shaking slightly. "My lord, our deep space scouts have identified several primitive systems. Most contain only basic life forms or early civilization. However, there is one system that may interest you." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Speak." "The Sol System, my lord. It contains a small blue world called Earth, inhabited by a species that calls themselves humans. They have recently achieved faster-than-light travel, but remain technologically primitive. Our intelligence suggests they number approximately 8 billion individuals." Thrakus leaned forward, his massive frame casting shadows across the throne. "Room 8 billion, and their military capabilities. Minimal, Great Emperor. They possess perhaps 300 vessels, most designed for exploration rather than warfare. They have no unified global government and no significant defensive systems. Our analysts estimate that a single battle group could conquer them within hours." The Emperor stood from his throne, his full height dominating the chamber. For centuries, he had crushed advanced civilizations with ease. The idea of conquering a primitive species should have bored him, but something about this opportunity sparked his interest. "Summon Admiral Corvin," he commanded. "I have a task for him." Within moments, Admiral Corvin strode into the throne room. He was a veteran of countless campaigns, his scarred face telling the story of 100 battles. His uniform bore the medals of victory from every major conquest in the Empire's history. He had never known defeat, and his reputation for ruthless efficiency was legendary throughout the galaxy. "You summoned me, Great Emperor?" Corvin asked, bowing deeply. "Admiral, I want you to prepare for a special mission. These humans have drawn my attention, and I believe they present an opportunity to send a message to the galaxy." Corvin's eyes gleamed with anticipation. "What are your orders, my lord?" Thrakus smiled, an expression that had terrified countless worlds. I want you to deploy the entire Crimson Armada against this single primitive world." A gasp echoed through the throne room. The full Armada had never been deployed against a single target. It was a force capable of destroying entire star systems, wielding enough firepower to crack planets and boil oceans. "My lord," Corvin said carefully, "surely such overwhelming force is unnecessary for a primitive world. A single battle group would be more than sufficient." "You question my judgment, Admiral." Thrakus's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Never, great Emperor. I simply seek to understand your strategy." Thrakus began to pace, his massive footsteps echoing through the chamber. "The humans will serve as an example to the galaxy. When worlds see that I deployed my entire armada against a single primitive planet, they will understand that no corner of space is safe from my reach. Fear will spread like wildfire, and resistance will crumble before it even begins." "Understood. My lord, how long do I have to prepare?" "You will depart within 3 days. I want this done quickly and completely. Leave no survivors, no trace that this species ever existed. Let their world burn as a beacon to every civilization in the galaxy." As Admiral Corvin departed to prepare the Armada, the throne room buzzed with nervous energy. The assembled courtiers had witnessed the Emperor's wrath many times, but the deployment of the entire Crimson Armada against a single world seemed excessive even by his standards. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, Commander Alina Vasquez stood in the observation deck of Lunar Defense Station, watching the routine traffic around Earth's moon. At 45 years old, she had dedicated her life to protecting humanity's expansion into space. Her dark hair was streaked with silver, and her brown eyes held the wisdom of someone who had seen humanity grow from a single world species to explorers of the solar system. The morning had been peaceful. Supply ships moved between the asteroid. Mining stations, research vessels collected data from the outer planets, and the Mars colonies reported normal operations. Earth's small fleet of exploration vessels patrolled the system's edges, searching for signs of intelligent life among the stars. "Commander," called Lieutenant Zhang from the communications station. "I'm picking up something unusual on the deep space sensors." Alina turned toward him. Zhang was one of her most reliable officers, calm and methodical in his approach to data analysis. If he sounded concerned, there was good reason. "What do you have, Lieutenant?" Zhang's fingers moved across his console, bringing up a three-dimensional display of the outer system. At the very edge of the sensor range, small red dots began to appear. Hyperspace signatures, Commander, multiple contacts emerging at the system's edge. Alina felt her pulse quicken. In the 20 years since humanity had achieved faster than light travel, they had always been the ones arriving unannounced at other systems. No one had ever come to Earth without invitation. "How many contacts?" she asked. Zhang's face went pale as more dots appeared on the screen. 50, 100. "Commander, I'm reading over 1,000 contacts now, and more are still arriving." The command center fell silent, except for the hum of computers and the sound of rapid breathing. Alina watched in growing horror as the number of contacts continued to climb. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. "Lieutenant, are you certain these readings are accurate?" "Yes, Commander. The deep space array is functioning perfectly. These are definitely ships, and they're massive. The smallest ones are reading as 2 miles long. The largest..." Zhang paused, double-checking his instruments. "Commander, some of these vessels are over 20 miles in length." Elena's mind raced. She had studied every known species in the galaxy during humanity's brief contact with galactic civilization. She had never heard of a fleet this size, belonging to any single power. "Put me through to Earth's Defense Command Priority 1, she ordered. Within minutes, Alina was connected to the highest levels of Earth's government. President Morrison appeared on her screen from his office in New Geneva, along with Defense Secretary Park and General Harrison, the head of Earth's military forces. "Commander Vasquez," the president said, his voice tight with concern. "What's the situation?" "Mr. President, we have a massive alien fleet at the edge of our system. Over 4,000 ships, possibly more. They appeared without warning and without any attempt at communication." The president's face grew grim. "Any indication of their intentions?" "Not yet, sir, but based on the size and composition of this fleet, I don't believe they're here for peaceful contact." General Harrison leaned forward. "Commander, what are our defensive options?" Alina had been dreading this question. Earth's defense force consisted of 300 ships, most of them designed for patrol and exploration rather than combat. Against thousands of enemy vessels, the odds were impossible. "Sir, I recommend we activate the Phoenix protocols immediately." President Morrison nodded grimly. The Phoenix protocols were Earth's deepest secret, a defense plan that had been in development for decades. Most of the government didn't even know the full extent of what had been prepared. "Do it," he said. Alina turned to her communications officer. "Lieutenant Torres, transmit Phoenix Code Alpha to all stations." "Authentication, Elena Savanza von Bravo." Torres's hands flew over his keyboard. Within seconds, coded signals raced across the solar system at the speed of light. To anyone monitoring Earth's communications, they would appear to be routine maintenance messages, but they were much more than that. On Ceres, the largest asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter, Administrator Jackson received the message in his private office. He had been waiting for this day for 20 years, hoping it would never come. He walked to a hidden panel and placed his hand on a scanner. A concealed door slid open, revealing a command center filled with military equipment. "Series control to all stations," he broadcast on a secure channel. "Phoenix Protocol is now active. All units proceed to designated positions." Across the asteroid belt, mining platforms that had operated peacefully for decades suddenly revealed their true purpose. Massive cargo containers split open to reveal weapons that had been hidden for years. Automated defense systems came online, their targeting computers acquiring the approaching alien fleet. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, Dr. Marcus Chen was studying ice samples when his computer chimed with an incoming message. He read the Phoenix code and immediately sealed his laboratory. Moving to a hidden elevator, he descended deep beneath the moon's surface to a vast underground facility that officially didn't exist. The facility contained humanity's most advanced technology, including weapons that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Dr. Chen had spent his entire career preparing for this moment, and now it had finally arrived. "Jupiter Defense Station coming online," he reported. "All systems operational." As the alien fleet moved deeper into the Sol system, Admiral Corvin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Devastator. The journey from Nexus Prime had taken 2 weeks, and his crews were eager for action. The sight of the primitive system ahead filled him with confidence. "Report," he commanded. His sensor officer, a reptilian creature named Vex, hissed as he consulted his instruments. "Admiral, we have entered the target system. Scans show one inhabited world with approximately 8 billion life forms. Their military appears minimal, Perhaps 300 small vessels? Corvin smiled with satisfaction. Open a communication channel to the inhabited world. The communication officer worked for a moment, then nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Corvin straightened his uniform and activated the transmission. Inhabitants of the third planet, he began, his voice carrying absolute authority. I am Admiral Corvin of the Crimson Empire. Your world has been selected for conquest. You will surrender immediately or face complete annihilation. The response came quickly. A human woman appeared on his screen, wearing a military uniform. Her expression was calm and determined rather than fearful. Unknown fleet, she said. This is Commander Elena Vasquez of Earth Defense Command. You have entered human space without permission and threatened our world. I order you to withdraw. Immediately, the bridge erupted in laughter. A primitive species threatening the Crimson Armada was beyond absurd. Human Commander Corvin replied, You clearly don't understand your situation. I command 5,000 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy. Your pathetic fleet cannot hope to stand against us. Surrender now, and your death will be quick. Commander Vasquez's expression didn't change. Admiral, you clearly don't understand yours. You have 10 minutes to begin your withdrawal, or we will be forced to defend ourselves. Corvin ended the transmission and turned to his officers. Prepare all ships for battle. We'll show these humans what happens when they threaten the Crimson Empire. As the alien fleet moved into attack formation, Elena watched from lunar defense. Station, the moment she had trained for her entire life, was about to begin. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden defenses powered up, ready to show the galaxy that Earth's children were not as helpless as they appeared. The Phoenix protocols were active. The trap was set, and the Crimson Empire was about to learn that sometimes the quietest worlds hide the sharpest teeth. Asterisk. The fall of an empire. Admiral Corvin watched the countdown timer on his command display reach 0. The 10 minutes had passed, and the humans had made no move to surrender. Their small fleet of 300 vessels hung in space like insects facing a hurricane. The sight filled him with contempt. All ships, he commanded through the fleet communication system, begin the bombardment. Show these primitives the price of defiance. 5,000 Crimson Empire warships opened fire simultaneously. The space between Earth and the alien fleet lit up with crimson death rays, each one capable of melting through solid rock. The attack was devastating, overwhelming, and designed to crush any resistance within minutes. But something was wrong. The human ships began to move with impossible speed and precision. They weaved between the crimson beams like dancers, their movements coordinated with mathematical perfection. Not a single shot found its target. What is happening? Corvin demanded. How are they evading our fire? His tactical officer, Commander Vex, stared at his instruments in disbelief. Admiral, their ships are moving at speeds that should be impossible for vessels of their size and their coordination. It's as if they're controlled by a single mind. What the Crimson Empire didn't know was that humanity's ships weren't just evading randomly. Each vessel was connected to a quantum communication network that allowed them to share information instantaneously. Every ship knew where every other ship was going, creating a dance of destruction that no conventional fleet could match. Captain Sarah Mitchell piloted her fighter, the Defiant, through the maze of enemy fire. Her hands moved over the controls with practiced ease, her ship responding to her thoughts as much as her touch. Around her, her squadron mates moved in perfect harmony, their ships linked by the same quantum network that connected all of humanity's. Forces Phoenix Command to all units. Elena's voice crackled through the communication system. Phase 1 complete. Initiate Phase 2. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden defenses revealed themselves. The mining platforms in the asteroid belt suddenly split open, revealing massive railgun installations that had been concealed for decades. These weren't ordinary weapons. They fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed, each one carrying enough kinetic energy to punch through the armor of the largest warships. The first salvo took the Crimson Empire completely by surprise. Hundreds of hypervelocity projectiles streaked across space, striking the alien fleet with devastating precision. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries exploded in brilliant flashes of light. "Impossible," Corvin shouted. "Where did those weapons come from?" His answer came in the form of a second salvo, this one even more devastating than the first. The hidden bases on Europa, Ganymede, and Titan opened fire with weapons that the Crimson Empire had never seen before. Particle beams that could tear apart molecular bonds, gravity weapons that crushed ships into stellar debris, and energy projectors that turned matter into pure plasma. Dr. Marcus Chen watched from his command center beneath Europa's surface as his gravity cannon fired. The weapon created a localized distortion in space-time, causing a dozen enemy ships to implode under their own mass. It was a technology that humanity had developed in secret, born from their study of black holes and neutron stars. "Target destroyed," he reported calmly, recharging for next shot. The tide of battle was turning with impossible speed. The Crimson Empire, which had conquered 3,000 worlds, was being systematically destroyed by a species they had dismissed as primitive. But the humans weren't finished. "Phoenix Command to all units," Elena announced. "Initiate Phase 3. The space around Earth began to shimmer as humanity's ultimate secret was revealed. Cloaking fields dropped away to expose a ring of massive defense stations that had been hidden in Earth's orbit for over a decade. Each station was the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Admiral Corvin stared in horror as his sensors finally detected the true scope of humanity's defenses. The primitive species he had come to conquer possessed technology that was centuries ahead of the Crimson Empire. His fleet of 5,000 ships was being systematically dismantled by an enemy that had been hiding in plain sight. "All ships, retreat," he commanded. "Emergency hyperspace jump," but it was too late. The humans had anticipated this move. As the surviving Crimson ships tried to escape, they found their hyperspace drives failing. Humanity had deployed hyperspace inhibitors throughout the system, trapping the entire alien fleet. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." Commander Elena Vasquez appeared on the main screen, her expression calm and professional. "Admiral Corvin, this is your final warning. Power down your weapons and prepare to surrender. Your escape routes have been cut off, and your fleet is surrounded." Corvin's face twisted with rage. "You dare demand the surrender of the Crimson Empire? We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We will not be defeated by a primitive species." Admiral Elena replied, "You came here expecting to find a helpless world. Instead, you found a trap that has been decades in the making. Humanity has been preparing for this day since we first learned of your empire's existence. We studied your tactics, analyzed your technology, and built our defenses accordingly." The truth was dawning on Corvin. Every piece of intelligence his scouts had gathered about Earth had been carefully planted. The humans had wanted to appear weak and primitive while secretly building the most advanced defense network in the galaxy. Your emperor made a critical error, Alina continued. He assumed that a quiet world was a helpless world. But sometimes, the most dangerous enemies are the ones who prepare in silence. As if to emphasize her point, another wave of human weapons fired. The remaining crimson ships began to fall like autumn leaves. Their supposedly invincible armor no match for humanity's advanced technology. Back on Nexus Prime, Emperor Thrakus sat on his throne, watching the battle through his fleets. Communication link. For the first time in 800 years, he was witnessing the destruction of his own forces. His hands gripped the armrests of his throne so tightly that the crystallized bone began to crack. "This is impossible," he whispered. "No species has ever defeated the Crimson Empire. How can these humans possess such power?" Advisor Zilka cowered. In the shadows, afraid to speak. The intelligence reports that had led to this disaster would likely cost her life, but she had only reported what the human deception had allowed her to see. "My lord," she finally managed, "perhaps we should consider negotiation. If we can learn their technology, silence." Thrakus roared. "The Crimson Empire does not negotiate with inferior species." But even as he spoke, he knew his empire was doomed. The humans had demonstrated technology that was beyond anything in his arsenal. If they could destroy his entire armada, what chance did the rest of his forces have? In the Sol system, the battle was reaching its conclusion. Captain Sarah Mitchell and her squadron had destroyed the last of the Crimson fighters, while the defense stations finished off the remaining capital ships. The space around Earth was filled with the debris of what had once been the most feared fleet in the galaxy. "Phoenix Command to all units," Alina announced. "Hostile fleet eliminated. Stand down from combat alert." A cheer went up from every human. Ship and station. They had done the impossible. They had defeated an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. But Alina knew this was just the beginning. "Dr. Chen," she called out over the communication network, "are you ready for Phase 4? From his command center on Europa, Dr. Chen smiled. "Affirmative, Commander. Hyperspace missiles are armed and ready." The final phase of humanity's plan was about to begin. The defense of Earth had been just the first step, using the hyperspace coordinates extracted from the captured Crimson ships. Humanity was about to deliver a message that would echo across the galaxy. Dozens of hyperspace missiles launched from hidden bases throughout the solar system. Each one carried a payload designed not to destroy, but to inform. They would travel to every major world in the galaxy, broadcasting a simple message: Earth was under human protection, and any empire that threatened peaceful worlds would face the same fate as the Crimson Empire. But some of the missiles carried a different payload. They were headed for the worlds that the Crimson Empire had conquered, carrying technology that would allow those oppressed species to free themselves. Humanity had not just defeated a tyrant, they had liberated an entire galaxy. Emperor felt the first explosions rock his palace as the human missiles reached Nexus Prime. But these weren't weapons of mass destruction. They were liberation devices, designed to free the billions of slaves who had been forced to build his empire. As his throne room filled with smoke and the sounds of revolution, Thrakus realized the full scope of what had happened. The humans hadn't just defeated his fleet, they had orchestrated the downfall of his entire empire. Every world he had conquered was now rising up against him, armed with human technology and inspired by humanity's example. "My Lord," Zilka whispered, "perhaps it's time to consider surrender." Thrakus looked at his crumbling empire and finally understood. The humans had been preparing for this moment for decades. They had studied not just his military tactics, but his entire civilization. They had identified every weakness, every flaw in his empire, and exploited them all at once. "Send a message to the human fleet," he said quietly. "Tell them ... tell them the Crimson Empire surrenders." Back on Lunar Defense Station, Alina received the surrender message with a mixture of relief and satisfaction. The plan had worked perfectly. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had liberated countless worlds and brought hope to species that had lived in fear for centuries. "Commander," Lieutenant John called out, "we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Dozens of species are requesting alliance with Earth. They want to join a coalition for mutual defense." Alina smiled. The Phoenix Protocols had been about more than just defending Earth. They had been about establishing humanity as a force for peace and freedom in the galaxy. The quiet species from the small blue world had just announced their presence to the universe. And the message was clear. No tyrant would ever again threaten the innocent without facing the united strength of free worlds. As the debris of the Crimson Fleet drifted through space, Alina thought about the future. Humanity had passed its greatest test, not through conquest or domination, but through preparation, ingenuity, and the determination to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the most powerful forces are the ones that choose to remain silent until the moment comes to speak. And when humanity finally spoke, the universe listened. The age of the Crimson Empire was over. The age of the Galactic Alliance had begun. And at its heart was a small blue world whose children had proven that courage, preparation, and the will to defend freedom could overcome any tyranny. The Phoenix had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same. Asterisk.
The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter had always been a gold mine for independent prospectors, but today it would become the stage for humanity's greatest revelation. The mining vessel Lucky Strike wasn't anything special, just another corporate rock hunter searching for rare Earth elements. Captain Maya Winter stood at her console, watching the holographic display as her crew maneuvered through the dense field of space debris. "Another day, another nickel iron rock," she muttered, taking a sip from her coffee mug. The ship's AI had flagged an unusual reading from one of the larger asteroids, something about unusual metal concentrations that didn't match known geological patterns. That's when everything changed. The asteroid before them shimmered and disappeared, revealing a massive vessel that dwarfed their mining ship. Its surface was smooth and pearl-like, with geometric patterns that seemed to shift and move in ways that defied physics. "Well, that's not supposed to be there," Maya said, maintaining her composure even as alarms blared across her bridge. "Johnson, get me a full scan. Martinez, power up the mining lasers. Not that they'll do much good, but it'll make us feel better." Before her crew could respond, their communication system activated on its own. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect English, but with an odd mechanical undertone. "Attention, primitive vessel. You have entered restricted space belonging to the Galactic Cooperative. Your species has been observed and found wanting. Submit to immediate integration or face dissolution." Maya blinked, then looked at her crew. Their faces showed various degrees of shock, fear, and, surprisingly, amusement. She couldn't blame them. After all the years of wondering about first contact, this wasn't quite what anyone had expected. "This is Captain Maya Winter of the independent mining vessel Lucky Strike," she responded, keeping her voice steady. "I wasn't aware this rock had an owner. Would you mind showing me the deed?" There was a long pause. When the voice returned, it seemed less certain. "Your attempt at humor is noted but irrelevant. The cooperative has claimed this sector for 10,000 years. Your presence here is unauthorized." Maya leaned back in her chair, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. 10,000 years, huh? Funny, we've been watching this particular piece of space for about that long too. Never saw your name on it. Captain, her science officer whispered urgently, they're powering up some kind of energy weapon. Maya nodded, but kept her attention on the communication. Look, if you want to talk about property rights, I suggest we do it through proper channels. I'm sure Earth's lawyers would love to discuss interstellar real estate law. Your primitive legal systems are irrelevant, the voice stated, but Maya noticed something interesting. They hadn't fired yet. The cooperative's authority is absolute. Absolute, eh? Maya chuckled. You know, we humans have a long history with people claiming absolute authority. It usually doesn't end well for them. But hey, if you want to make this interesting, go ahead. Just remember, you're not dealing with some primitive species that'll roll over because you have fancy toys. You're dealing with humans, and we're really good at surviving things we shouldn't. The alien vessel's weapons powered down. Maya could almost feel the confusion emanating from their ship. When the voice spoke again, it seemed almost flustered. You dare to threaten the cooperative? Threaten? Nah, just having a friendly chat about property rights and the dangers of making assumptions. By the way, while we've been talking, my crew's been broadcasting this entire conversation back to Earth. So congratulations, you've just made first contact with our entire species, not just little old me. The silence that followed was deafening. Maya could imagine the aliens frantically discussing this development. She'd just changed the game entirely. Now they couldn't simply destroy one ship and pretend it never happened. This interaction will be reported to the Cooperative Council. The voice finally stated, expect further contact. As the massive ship disappeared behind its cloaking technology, Maya let out a long breath. Well, folks, she said to her crew, I think we just made history. Someone want to call Earth and let them know we're about to have some very interesting visitors. The crew burst into nervous laughter, the tension breaking. But Maya kept her eyes on the spot where the alien ship had been. She had a feeling things were about to get very interesting for humanity. Johnson, she called out, get me everything we recorded about their ship. Martinez, plot us a course back to Earth. Something tells me we're going to need to prepare for some uninvited guests. As the lucky strike turned toward home, Maya couldn't help but smile. The aliens had expected to find primitives, easy to intimidate and control. Instead, they'd found humans, adaptable, stubborn, and absolutely unwilling to bow to anyone claiming absolute authority. The Galactic Cooperative was about to learn a very important lesson about underestimating humanity. 3 months after the Lucky Strike's encounter, Earth had transformed. The once competing nations had found a common purpose in preparing for the inevitable confrontation with the Galactic Cooperative. In orbit around Earth, a hastily assembled defense fleet waited, a mix of retrofitted civilian vessels and experimental military craft. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the EDF Prometheus, Earth's newest flagship. It wasn't much compared to what they'd seen of cooperative technology, but it represented something uniquely human, the ability to adapt and improvise. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected, her sensor officer announced. Big ones. The cooperative fleet emerged from hyperspace like a school of metallic leviathans, their ships gleaming with that same pearl-like surface the Lucky Strike had encountered. Chen counted at least 30 vessels, each larger than anything humanity had ever built. Here we go, Chen muttered. Communications, are you receiving anything? Yes, Admiral. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. The familiar mechanical voice filled the bridge. Attention Earth Defense Forces. The Cooperative Council has reviewed your case and found your species unsuitable for integration. Your resistance to authority and unpredictable nature make you a threat to galactic stability. You will be eliminated. Chen looked at her tactical display, studying the cooperative fleet's formation. It was perfect, textbook even, and that gave her an idea. All ships, execute Protocol Chaos, Chen ordered, a smile playing at her lips. Let's show them why unpredictable isn't always bad. The Earth fleet suddenly burst into what appeared to be complete disarray. Ships broke formation, moving in seemingly random patterns. To the cooperative's rigid military doctrine, it must have looked like panic or malfunction. "They're powering up weapons," her tactical officer reported. "Perfect. They're following the playbook. Launch the FERETs." From every Earth ship, small objects began emerging, thousands of them. The field effect resonance regulation and emission transmitters were barely larger than satellites, but they were about to demonstrate humanity's talent for turning weakness into strength. The cooperative fleet opened fire, their energy weapons forming beautiful and deadly lattices of light. But as the beams approached the Earth fleet, they began to twist and bend in impossible ways. "FERETs are working," the science officer reported excitedly. "They're creating localized gravitational lenses. The cooperative's targeting systems can't compensate." Chen nodded. "Now for Phase 2. All ships, deploy the mirrors." Each Earth vessel suddenly sprouted what looked like solar panels, but these were specially designed quantum reflective surfaces. As the cooperative's weapons fire continued, these surfaces began catching and redirecting the energy, creating a dazzling display of redirected firepower. On the cooperative flagship, High Commander Zextal watched in growing confusion as his fleet's carefully coordinated attack dissolved into chaos. These humans weren't following any known combat doctrine. Their ships moved like drunk asteroids, their defenses made no logical sense, and they hadn't even attempted to return fire. "Impossible," he muttered. "They're using our own weapons against us. Redirect power to shields." But it was too late. The redirected energy beams had already found their targets, guided by the FERET's gravitational manipulation. Several cooperative ships reported shield failures. "Now," Chen ordered, "all ships fire sonic disruptors." The Earth fleet's true weapons finally revealed themselves, not energy beams or projectiles, but carefully modulated sound waves transmitted through space itself. The cooperative's beautiful pearl-like hull plating began to vibrate, then crack. "Their hull material is crystalline in structure," Chen's science officer explained with evident glee. "Hit the right frequency, and it shatters like glass." The cooperative fleet's perfect formation finally broke as ships began trying to retreat from the sonic assault. But the humans weren't finished yet. "Launch the bees," Chen commanded. Swarms of microdrones emerged from the Earth ships, each carrying a tiny but potent electromagnetic pulse generator. They attached themselves to the cooperative vessels, bypassing their now fractured hull plating and delivering their payloads directly to vital systems. "High Commander," one of Zextal's officers reported, panic evident in his voice, "we're losing ships to what?" "To industrial mining equipment, sir. They've modified their mining lasers and sonic drills. They're fighting a war with tools." Chen watched as the mighty cooperative fleet fell into disarray. "Send the message," she ordered. Across all frequencies in every language they decoded from cooperative transmissions, a simple message played. "This was your warning shot. Still think we're primitive." The remaining cooperative vessels retreated in what could only be described as panic, their perfect formation forgotten. As they disappeared into hyperspace, Chen allowed herself to relax slightly. "Damage report. Minimal, Admiral. The mirrors and FERETs worked better than expected. Engineering wants to study the data. They think we can improve the efficiency by at least 40%. Chen nodded, proud but concerned. "They'll be back," she said. "And next time, they'll be ready for these tricks. We need to be ready too. Get me Earth Command. We need to start working on Phase 2. As her crew began damage assessment and repair, Chen couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. The cooperative had expected to find primitive warriors using brute force and simple weapons. Instead, they'd found engineers and scientists who could turn mining tools into weapons and sound waves into shield breakers. They'd won this battle, but the war was just beginning. and humanity would need every ounce of its creativity and adaptability to survive what came next. Dr. Aisha Patel stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her holographic presentation showing detailed analyses of cooperative communications intercepted during the recent battle. The council chamber was packed with military leaders, scientists, and politicians, all eager to understand their alien adversaries. The cooperative isn't just militarily rigid, she explained, highlighting patterns in the data. Their entire society appears to be built on absolute adherence to hierarchy and protocol. Every decision, every action, must be approved through proper channels. Admiral Chen, now promoted to fleet commander, leaned forward. That explains their delayed responses during the battle. They were waiting for authorization. Exactly, Aisha nodded. But here's where it gets interesting. We've detected significant variations in communication patterns between different ship groups. Some followed protocols precisely, while others showed subtle deviations. She brought up a new display, showing complex relationship maps between cooperative vessels. We believe the cooperative isn't as unified as they want us to think. There are at least 3 distinct factions within their fleet, each with slightly different command structures and response patterns. The council chamber erupted in murmurs. General Martinez, head of Earth's ground forces, spoke up. How can we use this? Aisha smiled. We already are. Remember that message we broadcast after the battle? We sent it in multiple formats, each slightly different, targeted at the communication patterns of each faction. The responses were illuminating. She played a series of intercepted cooperative transmissions. The differences were subtle, variations in tone, slight changes in phrasing, but they revealed deep divisions within the alien society. Some factions viewed our victory as proof that their rigid protocols need updating. Others saw it as a sign that they need even stricter controls. They're arguing among themselves even now. The UN Secretary General, Zhang Wei, stood up. Dr. Patel, are you suggesting we can exploit these divisions? Better than that, Aisha replied. We already have. Our intelligence teams have been broadcasting carefully crafted messages into cooperative space, not military communications, cultural transmissions, Earth music, art, literature, scientific papers, all carefully selected to highlight human adaptability and creative problem-solving. She brought up another display, showing increased communication traffic between cooperative worlds. They're talking about us, constantly. Some are fascinated by our unpredictability. Others are terrified by it. But most importantly, they're questioning their own systems. Admiral Chen smiled. Psychological warfare. We're not just fighting their ships. We're fighting their ideology. Precisely, Aisha confirmed. The cooperative's greatest weakness isn't their crystalline hull plating or their rigid tactical doctrine. It's their inability to handle ideas that don't fit their hierarchical worldview. And humans, we specialize in thinking outside their very carefully constructed box. She brought up one final display, showing a complex network of communication patterns. We've identified their primary command and control networks. More importantly, we've identified the gaps between them, the places where their perfect system shows cracks. When they return, she continued, they won't just be facing our ships and weapons. They'll be facing an enemy that understands them better than they understand themselves. An enemy that's been whispering into those cracks, widening them, planting seeds of doubt and curiosity. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't just preparing for a military confrontation. They were engaging in a battle of ideas, of ways of thinking and organizing society. There's more, Aisha added. We've detected increased communication between lower-ranking cooperative members and their frontier worlds. They're sharing our transmissions, discussing our tactics, questioning their leaders' decisions. Some are even attempting to replicate our more creative solutions. General Martinez laughed. So we're not just fighting them, we're inspiring them. In a way, Aisha nodded. The very unpredictability that their leadership fears is fascinating to their younger members. They're starting to ask dangerous questions, like why their society needs such rigid controls, like whether their way is really the only way. Admiral Chen stood up. How long until they return? Based on their communication patterns, they're still debating their response. Different factions are proposing different strategies, but they're coming. And when they do, they won't just be fighting our weapons. They'll be fighting the ideas we've planted in their own ranks. As the council began discussing strategy, Aisha watched her displays. Somewhere out there, a civilization built on order and control was grappling with the chaos humanity had introduced. They had expected to find primitives to conquer. Instead, they had found a species that turned their greatest strengths into weaknesses, that fought with ideas as effectively as weapons. The real war hadn't even begun yet, but humanity was already changing the battlefield in ways the Cooperative could never have predicted. The Cooperative High Council's chamber on their capital world of Nexus Prime had never seen such chaos. Representatives from 1,000 worlds argued as reports streamed in from across their territory. High Commander Zextal watched with growing unease as the carefully maintained order of millennia began to crumble. The humans have infected 3 more systems with their ideas, a counselor reported, his scales shifting to anxious purple. Colonial worlds are demanding autonomy. Trade guilds are questioning traditional protocols. Even our youth are. He shuddered. Experimenting. On the other side of the galaxy, humanity wasn't sitting idle. The massive shipyards orbiting Mars hummed with activity as Earth's fleet grew. But these weren't traditional warships. Each vessel was unique, incorporating lessons learned from the first battle and designed to exploit different weaknesses in cooperative technology. Commander Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the Mars Defense Station, watching as her new ship took shape. The EDF Trickster wasn't beautiful by traditional standards. Its hull was a patchwork of different materials, its shape asymmetrical and constantly shifting thanks to adaptive metamaterials. Latest intel from the frontier, her AI assistant reported. 3 more cooperative patrol fleets have gone dark. Not destroyed. They're simply not responding to Central Command anymore. Elena smiled. The Cooperative's rigid hierarchy was becoming its own worst enemy. Every patrol fleet that encountered human ships or colonies came back changed, if they came back at all. Not from combat, but from exposure to different ways of thinking. "What's the status of Project Babel?" she asked. "The linguistic AI is ready. When the Cooperative returns, they won't just be fighting our ships. They'll be fighting their own communication systems." Back on Nexus Prime, young Cooperative Officer Telvin secretly accessed another packet of human cultural data. The information was forbidden, classified as dangerous to social harmony, but he couldn't resist. Human music filled his quarters, chaotic, unpredictable, beautiful in its freedom. He wasn't alone. Across the Cooperative, millions were discovering Earth's transmissions, hidden in the background radiation of space, encoded in seemingly random energy patterns. In Earth orbit, Admiral Chen reviewed the latest defense plans with the United Earth Council. The holographic display showed hundreds of small dots spreading through cooperative space. "The autonomous probe network is complete," she reported. Each probe carries a quantum entanglement communicator and a complete database of human culture, science, and history. They're designed to appear as space debris, but any curious cooperative citizen who investigates will find a treasure trove of dangerous ideas. "And the primary defense grid?" General Martinez asked. Chen gestured, and the display shifted to show Earth's solar system. What appeared to be asteroids and space debris was actually an intricate network of automated defense platforms, each incorporating both human ingenuity and reverse-engineered cooperative technology. "We're ready," Chen confirmed. "But the real question is, are they?" The answer came sooner than expected. Deep space sensors detected a massive hyperspace disturbance. The Cooperative was returning, but not as a unified force. Their fleet was fragmented, ships clustering in faction groups, their once perfect formation now ragged and uncertain. "Multiple communications detected," the sensor officer reported. "They're arguing among themselves." The main screen lit up with dozens of transmission sources. Some demanded Earth's immediate surrender. Others called for diplomatic contact. Still others seemed to be fighting among themselves. "Send the message," Chen ordered. Across the cooperative fleet, every communication system suddenly began broadcasting. Not threats or demands, but something far more devastating. Questions. Questions about authority, about tradition, about the very foundations of their society. Each message was tailored to different factions, playing on their specific doubts and aspirations. On the cooperative flagship, High Commander Zextal watched in horror as his fleet began to divide. Ships from the frontier worlds were refusing orders. Vessels crewed by younger officers were breaking formation. And through it all, human transmissions continued, spreading doubt like a virus through their ranks. "Stop them," he commanded. "Block their transmissions." "We can't, sir," his communication officer replied. "They're coming from everywhere. From their ships, from seemingly empty space, even from our own communication buoys. They've turned our entire network against us." As the cooperative fleet fell into disarray, humanity's defense grid remained silent, watching. They didn't need to fire a single shot. The battle was already won, not with weapons, but with ideas. Alina watched from the trickster as the mighty cooperative armada began to tear itself apart. Ships were choosing sides, not between Earth and the cooperative, but between the past and the future, between control and freedom, between certainty and possibility. "Send the final message," she ordered. Across every screen, in every ship, in every language, the same words appeared. "Welcome to chaos. Welcome to freedom. Welcome to humanity's way of thinking." The war wasn't over, not yet, but the battlefield had changed forever. The cooperative had come to conquer a primitive species. Instead, they found themselves fighting a battle they never expected, a battle against their own assumptions, their own limitations, their own fear of change. And humanity. They were doing what they did best, adapting, evolving, and turning their enemy's greatest strength into their greatest weakness. The Sol system had become unrecognizable in the months since the cooperative fleet's fragmentation. Orbital lanes, once filled with military vessels, now hosted a strange mix of human ships and converted cooperative vessels, their crews working together to build something unprecedented in galactic history. Dr. Aisha Patel stood aboard the newly commissioned Station Independence, a massive structure that combined human adaptability with cooperative technology. Through its windows, she could see ships from both civilizations moving in harmony, their designs gradually merging into something entirely new. "The latest reports from the frontier are in," her AI assistant announced. 47 more cooperative worlds have declared independence from central authority. The reformation movement is spreading faster than we can track it. On Nexus Prime, the once mighty High Council chamber lay nearly empty. High Commander Zextal, now one of the few remaining hardliners, watched security feeds showing young cooperative citizens openly displaying human cultural influences. Streets once ordered and quiet now pulsed with music. Public spaces hosted debates and art installations. The rigid hierarchy was dissolving, replaced by something more chaotic but undeniably alive. "They've destroyed us," he muttered to his few remaining loyal officers. "Not with weapons, but with ideas." "No," a younger officer named Telvin replied, his scales shifting to a thoughtful blue. "They freed us. We were so focused on maintaining order that we forgot why we created that order in the first place. The humans reminded us that true strength comes from adaptation, not rigidity." Back on Independence Station, Admiral Chen and Elena Rodriguez reviewed the final phase of humanity's most ambitious project yet. The holographic display showed a vast network spanning both human and cooperative space. Not a weapon, but a bridge. "The quantum communication network is online," Elena reported. "For the first time in history, we're creating real-time links between all participating worlds, regardless of faction or species. Ideas can flow freely across the galaxy." Chen nodded, studying the display. "And the Defense Council?" "Dissolved," Elena smiled. We're calling it the Innovation Exchange now. Joint human cooperative teams working together to solve problems neither of us could handle alone. Across the galaxy, the transformation was undeniable. Cooperative worlds that had once been identical in their rigid adherence to protocol were becoming unique, developing their own cultures that blended their ancient traditions with human-inspired creativity. Human colonies, in turn, were adopting useful elements of cooperative organization and technology, creating new syntheses of both civilizations' strengths. But not everyone embraced the change. A faction of hardline cooperative leaders had gathered their remaining loyal forces for one final attempt to restore the old order. Their fleet, still impressive despite its reduced size, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. They're making their last stand, Chen observed as alerts sounded across Independence Station. But they don't understand. They've already lost. As the hardliner fleet approached, they found themselves facing not just human defenses, but ships crewed by their own people who had chosen a different path. The reformed cooperative vessels moved with the same unpredictability that had characterized human tactics, while human ships displayed precision that would have made the old cooperative proud. Send the message, Chen ordered. All frequencies, all languages. Across every communication channel, a simple transmission began. Not threats or demands, but something far more powerful. An offer. The message showed the new reality. Worlds prospering under freedom, species working together, problems being solved through the combination of human creativity and cooperative knowledge. You don't have to fight, the message concluded. You don't have to fear chaos. You don't have to choose between order and freedom. Join us in creating something greater than either of our civilizations imagined. On the hardliner flagship, Zextal watched as his crews began laying down their weapons. Screens throughout his ship showed images from reformed worlds, children of both species learning together, joint scientific projects making breakthroughs, art that combined both cultures' aesthetics. It's over, he finally admitted, his scales shifting to the deep blue of acceptance. We thought we were protecting our civilization. Instead, we were limiting it. The celebration that followed wasn't a victory parade, but a galaxy-wide festival of unity. On thousands of worlds, humans and cooperative citizens came together not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners in an unprecedented experiment. Dr. Paddle stood with Chen and Elena on Independence Station's observation deck, watching the combined fleet perform a display that would have been impossible months ago. Ships moving in patterns that were both orderly and creative, structured and free. They came to teach us our place in the galaxy, Elena mused. Instead, we taught them that there are no fixed places, only possibilities. And we learned too, Chen added. The cooperative's organization and technology, combined with our adaptability and creativity. We're achieving things neither civilization could have managed alone. Aisha smiled, watching a group of young cooperative officers excitedly discussing modifications to their ships with human engineers. The real victory wasn't defeating them, she said. It was showing them, and ourselves, that the best future is one we build together. As the celebration continued, news arrived from deep space exploration teams. They discovered signs of other advanced civilizations, some even more alien than the cooperative. But now, humanity wouldn't face them alone. They had allies who understood that true strength lay not in rigid adherence to tradition, but in the willingness to adapt, to learn, and to grow. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what both humanity and their new allies were counting on.